Welcome back to The Gassing Station, the podcast that jumps straight into the Pistonheads forums, like my co-host Sam Sheehan has jumped straight in to not synthetic fuel, it's sustainable fuel, that's it, isn't it? Sustainable fuel ownership, which is how we started last week's podcast. We kind of went into an in-depth chat about you running sustainable fuels on your MX-5.
Yeah.
But now, Sam Sheehan, a week or two on from when we last met, you've now got some MPG figures, which you said you were going to bring to us, which is extremely exciting. I promise we'll get on to more substantial car news in a bit.
This is the biggest news story of the day.
Sure.
I have to confess, right, caveat, because it's not as high as I was expecting it to be. Caveat is a lot of urban miles, a lot of traffic jams, and then when it wasn't urban, I was driving it like my hair was on fire.
Right.
Because it feels like it had more torque. So I have got, drum roll, 23.8 miles per gallon average out of that tank.
Wow. Okay. Right. That's something. But yes. Well, you know, for anybody that doesn't know Sam Sheehan, you have told me on a different format before that you were a quote failed racing driver.
Yeah, failed emphasis.
So when you do go and drive anywhere, it's usually at 10/10, isn't it? Yeah. Especially so when you're in a city.
Not in the city.
Yeah.
Very slow
well,
in
of
the
course.
city.
Yeah. Just imagine you in traffic just doing a new Formula One style race start, which is full revs all the time. But yes, so I can't imagine you going on a super economy run.
No,
in what
not in
is
this
a
stint.
15-year-old MX-5.
Yeah, a lot of life as well on the motorway, getting to press trips in the outside lane, fast lane. So, you know, and given how big the front grills are on BMWs, when they come up behind you in an MX-5, you just think, oh, I don't want those grills right up the back of me. So you do keep your foot planted into the carpet. I drove it enthusiastically. Key thing to say, though, was I want to do, and I've been speaking to the guys at Corriton, Sustain Fuel, about doing back-to-back rolling roads. So doing a lot more data, not just me doing, you know, laptop calculations here. So want to do rolling road back-to-back with normal fuel, sustain, and also, you know, emissions test as well. Someone in the PH forums actually commented on my article. Thank you for doing that. A few people got very angry. A lot of discussions about whether it was relevant or not. I mean,
surprisingly divisive on the Pistonheads forums. I thought this would have gone down like a house on fire. I thought everybody would have been on board. But
Same.
Which I genuinely think is a good thing, that people are really quite torn on it. There's a surprising amount of people who are now fully kind of EV converted and just kind of see this as a bit of a wasted, you know, what's the point if we're all moving to EVs? Other people think that it's, what's the point anyway? Just go to keep regular fuel.
I think in these times, though, I wrote that piece. If you haven't read it on Pistonheads, it's a bit down now because it's a few days old. But I wrote that piece before, obviously, this conflict that's kicked off now was really was going on at all. And obviously now that calls more into question the sustainability of our supply lines with conventional fuel. And of course, we know fuel prices are going to go up now because of this conflict. So in my opinion, trying to decouple or to reduce our reliance on international oil supply and trying to bring it home, especially if it can be sustainable and benefit jobs, etc., it's worth giving it a crack, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's with the Corriton lot, are they actually producing that in the UK?
It's Essex. I mean, I don't know the traditional fuels they get. So obviously they still have a massive part of their refinery that's traditional. I don't know exactly where that all comes from.
Right.
But as far as the sustain stuff is concerned, all in the UK.
Interesting. I was going to actually add on that because I think one of the things that came up from that episode that people were quite negative on was the cost of the fuel.
Which is
and
high.
I think maybe we didn't address that fully, or maybe I didn't address it fully when we did the podcast. But my thinking is, you know, it's high because it's something like $5.50 a litre or something like that.
For the top stuff, you can mix it. There are, and it's none of this is perfect. That's the point. It's not a 100% solution. It's just an improvement. You can get lower percentage, so 20% or 30%. Traditional petrol mixed in to your sustain to cut the costs, and if you do that, you can knock the price down to about, I think, £4 and a bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Still bloody expensive.
But I think my way of viewing it is, you know, anytime. Do you remember when, you know, EVs came and it was this? They'll never catch on because the infrastructure's not there and it's too expensive and yada yada yada. And it's like the charging network grew so quickly, and now there are much more affordable EVs. And, it's very realistic to run and use an EV in your life now. It's not for everybody, but, you can still own one perfectly fine. And I think the way that the more this is still very much a niche product, isn't it?
Oh yeah, and it doesn't have any of the support EVs have had from regulatory stuff and etc.
Absolutely, yeah. Because for some of the stuff we mentioned in the last thing of where do people really want to support oil firms and yada yada yada. But I think that the more that we try this kind of thing, and I know there are people out there who are like yourself actually going to Sustain and getting their cars filled up. I know that Harry Metcalf, for instance, I think he runs a lot of his fleet on
and they're
stuff.
Classics as well, which doubles down on because it's better for classic cars.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's just because it's cleaner. I mean, it's not hard. This isn't even. You don't even need to really look into the fuel to probably guess that it's going to be cleaner. If it's produced in a lab versus it's a refined, a natural resource, it's likely to be cleaner. Yeah, exactly. And it is. So
I'm intrigued to see where it goes, and I think the more that people use it, and the more we kind of learn about it, and especially with Formula One now adopting it, we've talked about this a lot, quite a lot on the pod. Maybe that will bring the cost of production down and make it a little bit cheaper for us, especially if something like what's happened in the last week happens again and our our oil prices go through the roof. Maybe that won't be so much of a worry in the future, but not something that's going to radically give you an improvement in MPG. No. We've said this before that with my ST and your MX-5 we do have pretty much the same engine. I've never done a proper MPG calculation on my car, but I think it's probably in the region of mid to low 20s anyway.
Is it? Yeah.
So it's not
heavy-footed drivers.
Yeah, precisely. Okay. And also because it's got like a rally gearbox, so wherever you go, it's always screaming.
Yeah. Not to bore the audience, but my Clio 182, can you guess what it averages? If I, it's got cruise control. My old Renault Sport Clio. Yeah, I know they came spec'd up. There's such a cruise control. And what can you guess what I get if I set the cruise at I was going to go 70, but no, literally 70 because that's when it cruises. It actually cruises happiest when I'm in Germany at 80 miles per hour.
Okay,
that seems to be its happy speed on the motorway. But if I sit at 70 in the UK, can you guess what miles per gallon I get out of that 2 litre?
It's got to be about the same, right? Kind of mid to low 20s.
You'd think so.
Yeah,
41 miles per gallon.
Are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding.
Amazing. Oh, you've got 6 gears there, haven't you?
No.
What? 5 speed?
So fuel efficient, those Renaults.
Wow.
It still blows my mind. And the Trip will say that. It's got a Trip computer, and I think that can't be true. And years ago, I calculated it, and it was, if I remember correctly, it was within the right, I think it was a few decimal places out, but it was there or thereabouts. But that decimal place difference is probably more that I hadn't done a complete empty to empty. I wasn't siphoning fuel out.
Okay.
Very efficient.
I feel like I might be putting some more miles into my ST soon, so I need to go and maybe do something like that. This is getting far too consumer advice.
Very nerdy.
So for our first topic, I'm going to steer us towards a car that a lot of people won't be able to buy. Now, apologies for this podcast coming out a little bit later than usual. We usually try and get our podcast out at the crack of dawn on a Tuesday. I've had to delay this one by a few hours so we can meet the embargo on Audi's new special edition. It is the RS3 Competition Limited. I went to go and see this about a month ago. I saw it at the same time as the Audi RS5, which we mentioned on a couple of podcasts back. I can now talk about the RS3 Competition Limited. And I think it's going to have a lot of people talking, mostly for its price tag. Now, before I get to that, Sam, you've not actually seen this car. Well, actually, that's a lie. I showed you pictures about 5 minutes ago.
But not in the metal.
Not in the metal.
And I've only seen like the front 3/4.
Because we're obviously recording this before the embargo, so Sam's not really seen the car. He's not really seen the interior. So what I'll do is I'll walk you through some of the changes that have been made. So the best way to think of it is it's a bit like what Audi did with the Edition 25 RS4 and the RS6 GT and the R8 GT, which is essentially put a few carbon fiber bits on the outside, but the big change is they've put manually adjustable 3-way coilovers on it, which is just, it seems so un-Audi because, if you look at RS over the last 20 years or so, it's been mostly about, or any Audi performance car has always been about usable performance. It's been about accessibility. You get in an R8 and they are ridiculously easy to drive. It just feels like you're driving an RS3, but you just sit a little bit lower. So this idea that you would have to manually adjust your setup is just ridiculous. Obviously, it comes out the box with its own tune on it. They've optimized it in a way, but you can actually... Audi will give you a setup guide as to how to set your RS3 Competition Limited up for certain types of situations. So you can adjust the ride height, low and high speed, compression and rebound as well. So it's got a dual chamber.
Dual chamber's good.
Dual chamber dampers.
So that means you'll get a bit more. That gives you a wider range of performance, isn't it? That's very handy for bumpy UK roads.
Absolutely, yeah. So the crazy that they're proper meaty pieces of kit. You know, we had a really good look at them while we saw the car. So you've got these coilovers on them, but the additional changes are you can spec Pirelli Trofeo R tyres on them if you really want to, which just seems, I've driven Trofeo Rs on like McLarens and stuff. So to have them on an RS3 just seems, I love this idea of an over-tired car. Yeah. I feel like that's definitely the situation. So if you want to go for those, you can with your RS3. It also comes with carbon ceramic brakes as standard.
On an RS3?
On an RS3.
Yeah.
But they've left the engine untouched. So it's still the 5-banger 2.5 litre turbo with 400 brake horsepower and kind of just as, 370 odd pounds-feet of torque. 0 to 60, 3.8 seconds, which we were discussing before coming on air, that it's only 2 seconds slower than the new RS5, which has 639 horsepower with electric, assistance. Obviously, it costs, weighs considerably more.
Like a house.
Yeah, exactly. They've also raised the speed limit on it. So before the limiter was at 155 miles an hour, they've now upped that to 290 kilometers an hour, which I think is 180 odd miles an hour, which seems crazy and a little hyper hatch. But the things that people are really going to notice are the styling changes.
Yes.
Which are relatively limited, but you get these new matte carbon flicks or canards on the front bumper. You've got a carbon splitter. You have a redesigned rear wing. I don't know if you remember, Sam, but the rear wing on an RS3 has kind of got like a little lip in the middle of it. So it's kind of like almost like a two-tier, but it's it's a single mold and it kind of dips in the center. Well, Audi's just kind of like shoved a carbon shroud on that to just kind of fill it in. And it looks really like, I don't know why they couldn't just make a new rear wing that was just flat at the top, but they're like, this helps reduce drag. And it's like, okay, are you sure it wouldn't have just been easier to make a new rear wing that was just flat? And they just kind of, there's almost like a carbon plug to fill it in.
Does it have a carbon bonnet?
It doesn't have a car. It's not like a M3 or M5 CS.
That
it's got a cool carbon bonnet. It does have carbon elements on it. It's got carbon skirts, heritage badges. So it's got, instead of the just straight red RS badge, it's got red, grey, and black, like the old Audi Sport designs. But the thing that was the most exciting, the thing that Audi was most excited about, aside from the coilovers, was the new malachite green paint.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Which is inspired by the Audi Sport Quattro homologation special. You could get that in a very dark green, which essentially is they've just transferred to this new RS3, and it looks fantastic with neodyme gold wheels.
Yeah, they're quite a soft gold though, aren't they?
It is a soft
gold.
gold.
It's not like Cleo Williams gold. It's
almost like a white gold.
Yeah,
a white.
Yeah, it
gold.
is. It is like a white gold. Yeah,
it's
good though with the red caliper as well.
It looks really smart. It's a really smart looking thing.
Has it got the door mirrors like a matted silver?
It's a matte carbon.
Oh, matte carbon. Sorry, it's a reflection.
Matte carbon.
Yes.
I can't remember if it's an actual... Yeah, it is matte carbon.
Because I think matte silver should come back, by the way, just a complete random piece in there. You know the noughties matte silvers on the mirrors? The RS's had them. Looks so good.
When marketing head Ben Loudon got his Audi RS3, which was the first generation RS3, the one from like 2010.
Yeah.
That had the matte silver... or matte metal kind of shroud around the grille. And I remember kind of going on a little rant in front of him and being like, do you know what's great about your cars? You've kept all of the matte silver, and it looks so good with this. And he went, yeah, I'm thinking about making it gloss black. And I was like, don't do it, man. Don't do it.
Next, you'll get 4D plates.
I know. And he's got rid of it since. Never came round to that, fortunately. But yeah, it looks so good with the matte silver. This one's obviously all kind of gloss black and matte carbon, but it's a really smart looking thing. Go on the inside, you have carbon back sports seats, which look really good. They also have kind of, they call it, was it ginger white upholstery for the seats with neodyme gold stitching. It's all very smart, and it's all in the name of marking 50 years of Audi's 5-cylinder, which started with the Audi 100 in 1976. I think that was 50 years ago. Yes, obviously it was made famous by the Quattro in rallying, but Audi's still keeping it going with the RS3. There's even rumours that it might go into the next Golf R.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I think they're more than rumours, aren't they?
Is it?
Pretty, yeah. Because it's gone into the Formentor, hasn't it? At Cupra.
Oh, it has, yeah.
So okay, so the group's kind of like, yeah, let's throw it around a bit.
Let's just chuck
it in that.
More 5-cylinder Audis, please. Yeah, it's a very, very smart looking thing with Competition Limited branding on the headrests, and it's even engraved into the rear quarter windows. So it's kind of like almost details. Like laser etched. It looks very, very, very smart.
It does look great. Like it's a cool looking thing. I actually think I love that shape, but I like the hatch, proper hatch.
Yes, so it's available in saloon and hatchback. Yeah. We're only getting it as a hatchback in the UK. Audi's building 750 of them, of which we are supposedly only getting 11. All of which will be available in the green in Sportback, the hatchback form.
11. That feels like they will have sold out before. Like there will be a dealer. There will be dealers across the country. Like, well, we know we're going to offer it to these people.
Almost, yeah.
So they're almost certainly all
sold. The other colours, by the way, there is a grey and a white, both of which are far more boring than the green. So the green is really kind of what sets it out as a properly cool little.
And there are 11, so it's like, even if they're all green, there are 11.
And the great thing is, because it's essentially an A3, it's much cheaper than other Audi RS products. Actually,
there's only a subtle hint of sarcasm in your delivery there, but it was just about enough.
I was going to say, actually, thinking about it, because the new RS5, I think in Avant form is 91 grand, and I think as a saloon is 89.
And that's a plug-in hybrid.
Yes, it is.
So it's got a lot of stuff in it in terms of powertrain.
This one is the same price.
Oh, blimey.
It's £89,330, and that's before you put on the Trofeo R tyres. But you would be, I mean, if you're going all out on it, I imagine there's going to be one of the 11 cars that winds up here. It's going to be kept in collector grade Trofeo R tyres, wrapped in plastic, stored in the back of a massive collection. But that's a lot of money for a Golf.
Yeah.
You know,
I think about these the same way I think about those, you know, they were never this expensive, but the one-off, or not one-off, sorry, the limited run Abarth 500s, you know, the
Biposto
and stuff. Everyone, we would all be like, that's insane money. But the people who were buying them had the Ferrari as their weekend car, and they just wanted a toy as part of the collection, and this will be the same, right?
It's one of those cars that is, it's annoying how expensive it is, because you look at it and you go, oh, it's 90 grand for an RS3, for a little hatchback, 90 grand. It is, no matter how you frame it, it's ridiculous. But they will sell all 11. They'll sell all 750, I would think, with no problem whatsoever. And the thing is when I go to a car meet, like a Sunday service or whatever, and I see one, I'll go, oh my God. I think part of the shock will be that someone spent 90 grand on an RS3.
Yeah.
But I will kind of look at it and go, that's pretty cool. And it's not garish like you see some specs. It's actually a really cool spec. Yeah. But as you mentioned when I told you the price, it is a premium over an RS3, a top spec RS3, but not a huge one, really.
No, I can't remember the exact price of everything, but I know you can get an A45S Mercedes. They're like 70 grand?
Yes.
Spec'd up, certainly. You know, you're spending a lot of money on all of these cars now.
A Vorsprung RS3, or a carbon Vorsprung as they're known, is 69 grand, I think.
Oh, wow.
It is expensive. It's a lot of money. So it's about a 20k premium for the Competition Limited.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of money to spend on some paint, a bit of carbon, and some coilovers. But you and I have both driven the RS6 GT, which followed this formula to a T, essentially. The RS6 GT was a bit more flared. It had that IMSA style.
It's definitely
GTO,
not restrained as well.
Not restrained
Lots
in the
of stickers.
slightest. I really loved the RS6 GT.
Yeah,
But the thing is that Audis have never been especially engaging to drive. But when I got into that RS6 GT, I was like, this is all I've wanted you to do. This is it. If you could make your cars drive like this, they would be so good. But you've literally just driven an RS6. You drove it like a few days ago for a video that's coming out on the PH YouTube channel soon. So yeah, how did you find it? What are you thinking of, like, the difference between a standard RS6 and a GT, because that will give us an idea of what we could expect from this Competition Limited.
Yeah, I mean, it was all in the suspension, because, things like steering feel, the responses on the front axle are quicker, but that's probably geometry related. I can't actually remember if there's a faster rack in it. I think there is a faster rack in that, so I don't know if this gets that.
No mention.
So it was a bit pointier, which, bearing in mind the RS6 is a 2 and a bit ton car, so it's not light, although compared to the RS5 with the plug-in hybrid, much lighter. So it's a heavy car, but it feels really pointy because of the geometry and the coilovers. And so I imagine this, which isn't just a naturally lighter and smaller car, it's just suddenly going to come alive with that. Because Audis are unashamedly, you said it earlier, like, they're fast, great for cross country. In fact, the fact that they're a bit less pointy makes them easier to drive fast cross country for anyone, because they were just really safe. And it's only when you start to then go into the sport modes and you play with the rear diff stuff, which they've recently, the last few years, they've started to turn up a little bit, so you can start to do a little bit of skiddy stuff. But if you leave it in the normal modes, they're not blunt, because that makes it sound bad, but they're just fast and not particularly engaging. But the coilovers completely change that, and anyone who's ever modified a car knows how much of a difference this stuff makes. And so obviously when you've got the guys in the factory doing it to the perfect settings and with a big budget, or relatively big budget, it's really good. It's firmer, obviously.
Yeah, exactly.
It's quite firm.
That's the problem with
punishingly so.
Yeah, this is the problem with putting coilovers on your own car, is that you have to obviously set them up yourself or go to a specialist to have them set up. And you need someone who really knows what they're doing to do it properly, because just whacking coilovers on your car and doing a rough setup is, I just think it can really ruin a car. Yeah. To have it set up from the factory means that it's a bit like when you drive an M5 CS or an MCS from the off, of where it's meant to be stiffer, it's meant to be much more focused, and yet somehow it rides better. It's almost just because it's been given so much attention and all the focus has been put on making it drive fantastically, rather than just a blanket product that's going to sell in the tens of thousands, like, say, a standard RS6 or a standard RS3. I have no doubt that this is going to drive brilliantly, because a standard RS3 is a really good car to drive.
And that engine, I mean, it's such a, even because I think about the A45S a lot when I'm talking about this category, because it's flipping quick. That engine has a lot of character. A lot of it's fake pumped in noises. This is just full of character naturally.
Exactly.
Even with all the filters that they have to run these days. Which made the RS6, by the way, quite quiet, which not the loudest V8 with.
I'm sure you could go to a Krapovich, though, and something can be done to turn that up a little bit. Or other exhaust manufacturers of your choice. But I mean, having driven when this RS3 came out, on the outside, it sounds incredible on the inside. On the outside, less so, because it had loads of filters on it. I assume that was back in 22, so I think it's probably got even more muted since then.
And that annoying 4,000 rev. Not that you should sit there revving your car in neutral, but sometimes you just think, I like that. Just one little rev on your own in the middle of nowhere, and they cap you at 4,000 revs, and you're just like, oh.
They know their customer base, though. They know that there's going to be a small group of people that are just going to sit at traffic lights, doing an F126 race start, full revs, just full chat, until the thing catches fire. What they have done is to bring in a little bit more sound on the Competition Limited, is they've reduced some of the noise filtering between the on the front bulkhead.
Okay,
so you should get a bit more induction noise, which is fantastic because, again, it's such a characterful engine.
Yeah.
But the thing that really made the difference for me is I drove the previous generation RS3 to this. I actually drove it to the Nürburgring, which is where I think I first met you, actually, because we did N24 together.
Yes.
Different.
Fantastic. That's a whole other story.
You might have been at PH at the time, which was strange. It was before my time at PH.
That was in the forests of the Nürburgring.
That was, yeah, we did RS5.
A lot of guys in
Sportback.
A lot of guys in shorts standing next to tents with blaring techno music and just no one in the tent. And you're like, what's happening? This is amazing.
I remember
so
walking to the carousel past a stage. It was a man had set up a whole stage and he was just sat in the middle of it with a beer. Blaring out death metal.
Yeah. We've completely got sidetracked because it's just anytime you talk about that, I don't even think about the race. The race was amazing.
It was a great race.
I just think about the forest. I'm like, what in the world?
The forest section was utterly bizarre.
You have to go and just walk through the forest at like 11 p.m.
Well, we drove our RSs, so we all came in different RS products, and so mine was the RS3 saloon.
I think I had the TT RS.
You had the TT RS, and I took the TT RS back.
Yes. Did you flat out run it on the old Autobahn?
I can't remember how much I got it up to. I remember the old RS3 feeling was kind of the point I was going to get to. Was the old RS3? I remember feeling it quite top heavy and almost a bit soft.
Yeah.
And just feeling like, and I had this with RS products for a while, of feeling as though the steering wasn't really connected to the front wheels. It kind of felt like everything was doing as you would expect it to, but not quite intuitively. Whereas when they got the latest generation RS3 along, they did some incredible work to make it feel like, it still had that light steering feel of an RS product, but it felt so much more responsive, so much sharper, and genuinely a little bit of communication through the wheel, which you just never had before.
No,
it was so numb. Also, the first Audi product with RS Torque rear. So you could go and do some skids.
This is the thing. Audi is fun. What you said at the start, right? Like you never expect this from an Audi. The only time I'd had a really fun, surprisingly fun time in an Audi was when I drove an S1 like a decade ago, and I was like, oh, this is a great little thing. But yeah, since then there was a window of time where I was kind of like, great engines. Often look really cool. Yeah, I definitely can see like the appeal of this, but I would probably end up in the BMW or something like that, or the Jag or whatever equivalent. But now you're like, okay, these are great. Just to throw in that TTRS, I got to not quite to its limit of, I think it was limited to 180 or something like this.
Oh my God.
So it's 178 indicated, so it'd be less in real life on the Autobahn. And the driving standard on the Autobahn is exceptional.
It's very good.
I'd see like a car up ahead and I'd be like, I'm going to have to start lifting now because I'm going to catch up with them.
Yeah.
They'd spotted me in their mirrors.
They
were already out of the way. It was like they wasn't that busy, to be fair, but every time I caught up to something, they were well out of the way. I wish we could bring that level of driving standard to the UK.
I wish we could have, at actually the N24, they have the flashes. So, when they come up to you get like the little kind of 3 to 5 flashes of a headlight. If there was a button for that, flash, 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 flash.
Yeah.
Car moves out the way.
And there's like nothing personal with them over there. They kind of, if you flash them, they're kind of like, yeah, no problem, you're coming through. Whereas obviously here, everyone gets really angry. Not that I flash, but I've seen people have some road rage incidents around.
There are zero egos on the Autobahn as well, because no matter how fast you're going, there's always a diesel Golf that's going faster than you. Always on your backside, just destined to get to work.
It's like Fiat Cinquecentos in Italy.
The only thing that doesn't help Audi is when they're trying to say that their cars have more personality, is when they, looking at the press release, they describe their car's diffuser as coolly technical appearance.
Yeah.
Which is
that's so German.
It's not cool.
Sport cool.
Sporty. Oh, it's so coolly technical. Yes, thank you, Audi. I thank you for telling me that.
It's from my side. I love going to Germany because everyone's so nice, and generally the people we meet as well are very, very smart engineers and stuff. So they're so good.
And there's a lot of
great phrases.
There was the great phrases that come out that they, as soon as they say it, they know that it sounds quite funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, really passionate engineers. Always really good to talk to the people that have made this. And so, yes, it's a 90 grand RS3. There's no hiding the fact that is an astonishing amount of money for a hatchback. And you do get inside and it feels like an A3, which is a 30 grand car at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It does feel like, so you're paying three times the amount on something that's got some carbon on it and is going to drive superbly. But if you're after an interesting Audi, or an interesting little hatchback that's going to, I assume, drive really quite well, because history says these limited edition GT products / editions of what we saw with the RS3, they do genuinely work really well. What I had to think about, though, is that obviously this car's been released to celebrate 50 years of the Audi 5-cylinder. I thought we could go on the classifieds and find out what our favourite 5-cylinder cars are. So I had a little dig through, and I found mine quite quickly. I feel like mine's the obvious one. So, Sam, do you want to go first?
Yeah, and this was something you spotted and immediately were like, you like this? And I was like, oh my God, I really do. Yeah. Because I had a Fiat Punto as my first car, 1.2 8-valve, which I made slower with a Ford Focus RS induction kit. Definitely created more heat. Definitely created heat, so definitely cost me power, but definitely sounded awesome.
So cool.
And I always dreamt of having a coupe 20-valve 5-cylinder.
Oh, so cool.
Well, they were 5s. Yeah, of course they were.
You could have them in 5-cylinder.
That was it, yeah. Turbocharged, looked amazing. They're now through the roof price-wise. Some of them are anyway. $7 or $8 grand. Bearing in mind they were hundreds of pounds only a short while ago. You found a lovely Stilo with a bigger 2.4 litre engine, 5-pot, for just under $8 grand. And it looks, 73,000 miles, 2 previous owners. It's in very good condition.
That is... So, what I wanted to do with this, and I'm glad we've kind of done it because I didn't actually tell you what we were going to do, was kind of like, how could we get a taste of this RS3 Competition Limited on a much smaller budget? And this one is probably the cheapest you could get. The only thing I would say, if I'm right in saying it's naturally aspirated. So it doesn't have a turbo.
That much power, 170 horsepower.
170 horsepower. But it means that you don't have a turbo muffling the sound. So you're getting...
That's true.
Let's just not beat around the bush here. It's going to sound like half a V10.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, exactly.
It's,
I came in here expecting to find a cheap RS3. Instead, I found a cheap R8.
Yeah. Let's be frank. You look at the interior, like that is, that is early 2000s Fiat. It's just, it's not horrible.
Sea of grey plastic.
It's not inspiring.
It looks...
So you're very much buying the engine here.
The steering wheel looks like a single mold. Let's just say that, like a single mold rubber.
It wasn't a high point for Fiat design.
So that's a very cool option for just a few quid shy of $8 grand. I, however, have gone for something that's probably a little bit closer to the RS or the RS3 in concept, and it is the Focus RS, the Mark II.
Oh, I love these cars.
A fantastic car. We've got loads for sale on PH. But what's amazing, though, is that RSs of any kind really hold their value. You can get an ST Mark II with a detuned version of this engine for 10 grand. We actually had a spotted one recently. And they are really cool cars and they sound good. However, the Mark II RS was a really big deal because it had 300 horsepower. It had the innovative Revo knuckle, which was designed to reduce torque steer. Because when this came out, this was 2008, 2009. The idea of a 300 horsepower front wheel drive car, we'd seen it before with the 147 GTA, and it was a mess. Whereas this they worked tirelessly to make it function. And I've never driven one, but I've heard very, very good things about them. Hugely characterful 2.5 litre engine. Originally a Volvo.
It was,
engine, right? 300 horsepower.
It's tough,
This one's blue. I've gone for the best example I could find, which means you're paying $44,999 for it.
45 grand. But it's half the price.
It is half the price of the RS3. However, you can get one for less than that. Not a huge amount less, but you can definitely get one for less.
Is that 10,000? So it's just under 11,000 miles as well. It's really low mileage. It's mid. Do you know my favourite colour was that green they did? I really like the green.
Yes. Oh, I love the green.
It wasn't like an alien green. I keep talking about Clio's. The Clio alien green, which was a lot more like a brighter. It was a more silvery green, if I remember correctly. It was a pretty alien green. It was a very, very green. Yeah, it was just a metallic-y
colour. It was like
colour,
a pearly kind of green.
It's the metallic in it.
But very of its era.
Yeah.
Because you don't really see hatchbacks painted in that sort of colour. But when you see one on the road, it certainly pops. One thing I wanted to end on before we move on to our next topic is the 5-cylinder engine in general. When I was looking at 5 cylinders, I thought that I'd be limited to Audis and Fiats and Volvos.
Yeah.
But there was a few Mercs that came up, and I thought, that's really strange. A Merc 5-cylinder.
Yeah.
But I found out the first mass production 5-cylinder engine came from Mercedes. It was the W114/W115 300D. Diesel. And it's actually seems to be quite, I don't want to say common, but it seems as though there are quite a lot of 5-cylinder diesels out there.
That's strange.
When I searched for Mercs, most of the ones that came up were diesel engines, 5-cylinder diesels. Yeah.
What year was that first one?
1974.
So, old diesels, even good ones, were a little bit like ticky, like tick, 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 that kind of
My grandma
rattly.
had a 306 diesel, and you could hear her coming from a mile away, and it just sounded exceptionally flatulent.
Yeah, but like that, plus a 5-cylinder, which I guess is not as, a 6-cylinder is the most, a straight 6, if I'm not mistaken, is the most inherently balanced engine, which is why Merc, Beamer, they love them because it's a really smooth engine.
Yeah.
So this to me feels like it's, especially as a diesel, the engine mounts must have had to really soak up some vibration.
Oh, yeah.
Unless I'm getting this completely wrong. Obviously, I'm not an engineer.
Oh, yeah. They're very wobbly.
Choice.
I wonder what a wobbly 5-pot diesel sounds like. But yeah, so Lancia apparently introduced it in a truck in 1938, but the first mass-produced one was from Mercedes. But obviously, Audi took the idea, put it in the 100, ran with it, and now we associate 5-cylinders with Audis. Moving on to some cars that will be much easier to buy and also considerably cheaper. So as usual, we try and find a buying challenge for our second topic on the podcast. And this week, I've got one from Lord Grover. It's titled Last Hurrah, and they say, I'm about to start the slippery slide into retirement.
Slippery slide.
Slippery slide.
It sounds like
It's like
don't want to go down there.
Yeah, it's embrace retirement. Congratulations. It sounds like you're gonna it's just enjoy the time off.
Yeah.
Dropping to 3 days a week in April with the view to 0 days/weeks within a year or so. With this in mind, my BMW i4 G26 is fine for the commute, but rather lacks the soul of a proper motor for high days and holidays. I need some V8 goodness to share the driveway. No diesel. Doesn't need to be super fast/sporty, more comfy and purposeful. Can't be expensive, 20 to 30k tops, not too old, circa 2010. And on their shortlist so far is an X150 Jaguar XKR, a Range Rover L322/L405, and a Jaguar F-Pace. Not sure why JLR is topping my list thus far. I'm well aware of their reputation, but it's an itch that needs scratching. Probably. Any reason to buy one over the other that'll help me decide? And obviously, we're here to offer some alternatives.
Not very helpful on my side.
I think,
Silly, not helpful at all.
Reliability is not something that we've gone for.
Yeah.
But fun, yes. So, I've got 3. Sam, you've got 3 as well. What are you starting off with?
So I should start off with the one that actually does fit the requirements because it's 2010. This car.
Oh yeah.
All the other ones I've gone old because I was like, I'm just going to argue a case for old cars because I think you can get so much for your money.
We love an old car.
Yeah. So I've gone with the 2010. Now, possibly one of the best sounding V8 engines ever made. Certainly one of the loveliest exhaust notes you can hear. And I still hear them around. Often I'll hear them cruising around in areas and I'm like, I know exactly what that is because it will be a Maserati.
You're so right.
Yeah. You know what? You're just like, that is a gorgeous sounding engine. And it, in many cases, is a bit louder because I think people have actually, the aftermarket has supplied these well.
I don't think, I've just seen the car. I don't think there is a single stock exhaust on one.
They all sound glorious. And of course, I'm talking about a Peugeot 107. No, I'm joking. I'm talking about Maserati GranTurismo with the glorious 4.7 V8.
Can we just take a moment to appreciate how ridiculously beautiful this car is?
Yeah.
I feel like, and I've noticed this from what you've talked about, there is a certain type of person that has been buying them recently because you can get them quite cheap.
Yeah.
And even when they're being ragged around with extremely dirty number plates that, conveniently cover up most of the letters, they still look fabulous and classy and gorgeous.
It's got
I
red
love them.
leather. It's a black car, red leather, red brake calipers. It's gorgeous. I love it. Aluminium shift paddles. They're aluminium, aren't they? Whatever they are, they're gorgeous metal.
Oh yeah, they're so big.
Yeah, and of course it's back in the days when these gearboxes weren't super rapid to shift, but there was character in the shift. It was lovely. I've never actually driven one, but have I passenger? Why do I know the experience of them so well? I think I've just watched that many videos of them. They are just... It is actually a dream car of mine one day. If I have a multi-car garage, this would go onto it. And it's bang on budget, £30,000.
Very nice.
That's the
quite
only
low
one.
mileage as well.
Exactly,
right? So
yeah.
you had 18,700 miles and only one previous owner.
I think it was two.
Was it two previous owners?
Oh yeah, one previous owner. Yes, so two owners.
There you go.
So you'll be the third. Lovely car. Now I'm going to break rules with these. Sorry in advance, but I just saw this 1971. So it's very old. Yeah. But a Rolls-Royce Shadow. I mean, this is gorgeous. £29,750. I mean, look,
a V8.
6.7 litre V8.
Crikey.
Yeah.
Wow. Blimey.
6.75. Sorry, because they always 0.75.
That's right.
Yeah. Which apparently, I didn't know this, as opposed to the earlier 6.2. So it's a bigger torque, smoother delivery.
Oh, amazing.
Gorgeous car. Not a 2010 model, but absolutely stunning. And it's been fully restored. So I would suggest it will be more reliable than your 2010 car.
That's a very good point. And I mean, talking about high days and holidays, good Lord, nothing will do it with as much theatre as that absolutely beautiful roller.
Gorgeous.
Yeah. A very, very good shout. Definitely left field. But I mean, again, it's restored. It looks absolutely fantastic. So you won't have to worry about it for a period of time.
Some days.
Yeah.
The summer you will have to worry about, but I know we'll go down well with a PH audience.
Oh, big time.
TVR Griffith.
Yeah.
14 years too old for the 2010 limit, but it's 27 grand. I mean, it looks absolutely stunning. I've always wanted one of these.
Aged
I think
so
they're
well.
so pretty.
Griffith 500. It's a 5 litre
5 litre V8.
Manual TVR with just... I love these so much.
Current owner's had it for 11 years. It's going to be a loved, cherished car.
Yeah.
I think this is gorgeous. I mean, you can really see, the history on this car. 11 years with one person, they're going to have taken care of every single detail, aren't they?
100%.
It's gorgeous.
The good thing is, we obviously talk to a lot of TVR owners at PH, and they come to Sunday services, and I am such a massive TVR fanboy and have been since day dot.
Yeah.
And so I always want to talk to them, and it's the love for their TVR is so strong that you don't really, at least the ones that we see, are always in fantastic condition.
Yeah.
Because a standard TVR from the factory, left untouched, wouldn't have made it this far.
No.
They would have all fallen to bits and blown up. So people have been looking after them. I would say over the last 10 years, you'll find a lot of owners would have had to have done a lot of work on it. There's a lot of pictures on this one of stuff being done.
The underside is cleaner than, your table at dinner. So it's gorgeous. It is. This is, I mean, it might as well be a brand new car as far as I can see. The engine bay, I mean, you'd have your dinner off that, man.
You've completely ignored the time frame, as have I for at least one of my cars. Two of them, but it doesn't matter because that's a fantastic car and a really very good shout.
I mean, look at the. You can see the components. That part of the chassis underneath. It's like that's brand new. It's been fully restored.
Wow,
stunning.
Okay, well, while you have a think about which car you're going to put forward, I will go through mine, and I'm going to start off with the one that fits the criteria best, as you have, and it's a 2014 BMW M6.
Oh, yeah.
These are not really kind of held in that high regard, not because they're not the best cars. It's just because I think a lot of people would have preferred an M5 over the M6. However, I'm one of the select few who really loves this generation of M6. I personally prefer the Grand Coupe. I'm partial to a Grand Coupe. But the M6 Grand Coupe for me is a fantastic looking car. You can actually get one on PH at the time of recording this for the same price as this. This one's $29,995. There's a Grand Coupe available in blue for a similar amount of money. This one is in kind of very dark silver. It's got 25,395 miles. It's got the 4.4 litre V8 with 555 horsepower, 552 brake horsepower. I have driven a newer version of this engine and it's efficiently fast. I would say it's not the most characterful, but it's rapid.
Yeah.
But what we're talking about here in this, in the criteria is that it's, I guess pace is a good thing, but there is an element of wanting something GT-ish.
Yeah.
Comfort. Comfort. And I think this ticks the bill. This ticks all the boxes and then some. Really, really, really lovely looking thing. Also in the background, I'm just having a look at the pictures. There is I think that's a Lotus.
Oh yeah. God, that's good knowledge.
That is a Lotus. What's it? Evora GTE Le Mans car.
You've got that. Just if you're not watching this and you're not able to show these pictures, he's got that from a front wing, a mirror, and a wheel.
I'm going to have to check that up later. A part impressive. Of me is thinking that is a Lotus Evora GTE.
There's no profile here. This is such the shot is so unhelpful, and you've
it's either that or it's an Aston Martin. I'm going to quickly check. Lotus Evora GTE Pro.
That is, I'm getting,
60,
the wheels are right.
65?
The wheels are right. Wow. Good bloody knowledge.
We've just fact-checked it, and that's it. So, so if you want something for the track, it looks like there's one available there as well.
We should do a little challenge, guess the car, and Cam, you have to just identify cars based on completely random bits. Like, here is a screw from some boot panel.
But anyway, moving on to a car that is coming up for auction. And this one very much fits the bill. It's not 2010, but it's near enough. But a really quite rare and very, very interesting version of the CLS. It's the 63 AMG. Yeah. Now, this is the original Mercedes CLS. When this car came out, it was drop dead gorgeous. I don't know if you remember the concept, but it was almost largely unchanged for the production car. The concept came out. It was a staggering looking thing. Then they released the production car, and it seemed to fill a niche that no one really wanted, which was the coupe, the four-door coupe, which has obviously become quite a big thing now.
Ahead of the curve.
But yeah, Mercedes very much ahead of the curve at the time. But the great thing about the CLS is that it didn't feel like a C-Class or E-Class coupe with four doors. It felt like very much its own thing. It had its own design, it had its own lights, it had very much its own rear, which was almost that kind of like reverse camtail, so it kind of really slants off at the back. It's a beautiful thing. This one is 2007 car. When they launched, they were 55s, and then they introduced the 63 engines, the 6.2 litre hand-built V8 with 507 brake horsepower, roughly 510 horsepower. And I believe these also came with carbon ceramic brakes as standard.
Wow.
So running costs, potentially on the high side, but 68,000 miles for previous owners. It just looks fantastic. It was such a rarity, and I there was an audible gasp when it came up on auction, so I was like, I have to mention that. So go take a look.
Both this and the M6, I think, are now coming into, like, they've exited that time when they were probably a few people. These weren't examples of that, but where people were getting them a bit cheaper and probably not looking after them very well. Yeah. But now they're starting to fall back into modern classic territory.
I've seen a few 55s that haven't been looked after especially well, because you can get them for dirt cheap. Yeah. 63s less so, because they're super rare, are more expensive, and they do require a little bit more attention, but I think it's worth it.
I've seen a few 55s parked up in McDonald's car parks with what looks like a hot box scenario inside, probably a vape rather than
yes. Yeah. Definitely not the case with this 63.
Not with the 63.
Super lovely. I actually had one of these on my radar when I was looking for my 4 Series, but the fuel
I was about to say,
I'm not nearing retirement.
Quite different.
The fuel was a bit challenging. Last one, again, we're going just below 2010, but it's closer to 2010 than it is 2000. Yeah. And it's a 2006 Bentley Hunaudières. This is the 6.8 litre. 6.8 litre V8. The reason I've chosen this is because I'm a big fan of the Bentley Brooklands. Who isn't a fan of the Bentley Brooklands? They are a 6-figure car comfortably these days, especially if you get very, very low mileage. Good example. This one is 74,000 miles, and being an Hunaudières means that you have 4 doors, which is great if you have friends or family that can sit in the back. It's got the cruising well and truly sorted, and it's also of the era that is post VW takeover, but full on VW product. So this very much feels like a kind of last of the line, pre-VW merger.
Yeah.
It's a proper old school car with refinement. 32,950, so a smidgen over budget, but what a way to go over budget. Really, really marvelous looking thing. This one's in dark grey, silver wheels, black leather interior, smart, dare I say, slightly understated.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, it's gorgeous. Talking of Brooklyns, by the way, I know this is in the Brooklyns. I saw there was a Range Rover Classic Brooklyns as well in budget.
Oh, okay.
V8.
Yeah, very, very nice.
So some lovely options there. I mean, obviously that, again, way older than 2010, but...
Yeah. And speaking of Brooklyns, we've just had our Sunday service at Brooklyns. Well, we're recording this just before, but so plugging the Sunday service is going to be pointless. We sold out anyway. But we do have the mini Sunday service coming up in April the 19th. So be sure to sign up to that. It's going to be on the homepage, and it's also pinned on our Facebook page as well. But we haven't wrapped up our buying challenge yet. So Sam, what are you going with?
In the name of consumer advice and helpfulness, I'll go with the only car from my selection that actually fits the requirements. So I'll stick with the Mazda. I also think it's that engine. I mean,
yes,
it's just the noise that I want in my life, and I'm sure
never before has a GranTurismo been the sensible choice.
No.
Until now.
Slippery slope to retirement, get yourself a Maserati.
God, I want that Griffith so bad, but you're right. It definitely fits the bill. And while I adore the 63, I kind of want it for myself, to be honest. And I would happily have an Arnage. It's got to be the M6.
Yeah.
I think it's a bit more sensible. But again, I feel like, in the name of actually providing some advice, I think that M6 is actually really quite a good shout. And would I have one over the equivalent Jag? Probably. Yeah. I think it's the Jags are going to probably drive a little bit nicer, but I think the M6 is potentially. I know the 4.4 is not the most reliable V8 out there, but I believe it's in a more advanced state in that M6, and therefore should be a little bit kinder on the wallet. So there you have it. Those are our choices. What you can do is, if you're listening to this on Spotify, I'll be leaving a vote, so you can choose between my car or Sam's. It's always nice to know it, so I can say, I've beaten Sam, or Sam can lord it over me. Alternatively, I'm going to be putting up a post of this on the Pistonheads homepage. I'll leave a link to the thread. You can jump in there, put your own suggestions in, and maybe say, Cam, Sam, you were both rubbish. Also, we obviously had the 63 AMG up on Pistonheads auctions. We have new stuff coming in all the time that are very much going to fit the criteria here. So be sure to have a look. If you see something that's coming soon and you like the look of it, have a look for the make an offer button, because if you click that, you can actually go and submit an offer to the seller, and if they really like it, you can actually go and nab it before it comes up for auction. If you miss that though, go and bid on it and then get the car of your dreams. Speaking of dream cars, Sam, I thought we would finish off with Baffled Spoon's topic, which is the best concepts that never made production. So they quite literally are dream cars, because they ain't real. And they say, I was reminded by the Wedges thread about the MG EXE concept from the 1980s, which I still think looks fantastic, but never made production, obviously. Anyone have any other of their favourite sports concepts that they never saw make production? Interestingly, I actually saw this EXE concept at the British Motor Museum a few weeks ago, which was very, very, very cool. It was one of the most interesting cars there. This is actually a thread from 2011, but it was recently revived by one of the, I think was it Super Dan? I don't know. It was recently revived, which is why it's came back to the top of the pile, which is great. So some of the cars that are on there, Asheron has mentioned the Range Stormer, which is really interesting, because we've just had a video go up on our social medias of our friend Thomas Howarth driving one, driving the Range Stormer. And the funny thing is, someone said, it doesn't look like it's got any suspension travel. And it's like, I don't think it's got any suspension whatsoever, because it was. I saw it, and it's a fantastic looking thing. And you and I are both of the Gran Turismo generation. Yeah. Range Stormer was a cracker of a car in Gran Turismo 4. And to see it in real life was amazing, but it looks very much like a concept car. Like, you get up too close to it, and you can see some of the glue and paper mache, and but yeah, it runs, it drives, albeit very slowly. So we had that, had a little test drive in that. Matt UK says the original Jaguar F-Type concept, which I believe is also known as the XK180, which I also saw at the British Motor Museum tucked away. A stunning car. In fact, I saw both cars. I'm pretty sure they had the F-Type concept there as well.
Yeah,
it's a fantastic.
I went a couple of years ago. So much fun.
Fantastic, and it's a good place to remind yourself of how cool British cars can be, and how rubbish British Leyland cars are. Yeah, because there's some real Leyland heats there. But a lot of the stuff that came out post Leyland is extremely cool, including the XK180 concept and F-Type concept. Uncinquettesi. I don't know how
is that in Italian?
Uncinquesse.
Would make sense with the car choice.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, because they've gone for the Lancia Fulvia concept.
Yeah.
Which I think, a fantastic looking thing, by the way. I think Lancia could revive this and do a Fiat 124 and put it on the Mazda MX-5. Yeah. Because if I could have you've just brought up a picture. Just want to say, if I can put pictures up of these cars, I will. We can only put pictures up of cars that we have rights to use. Some of these old concepts can be quite tricky because manufacturers don't have images of them that we can use, but I will hopefully find a picture of this Fulvia because it was a really cool looking thing.
It looks great. Can I just say that when I caught a glimpse of it at first, it looked a bit like a Vauxhall Tigra, but only that bit, because only the very front 3/4 headlights. Other than that,
well. Actually, good you bring that up, because you know how Stellantis likes to relaunch the same product over and over and over and over and over again with different badges. They could. It does.
It's got the same headlights.
Is it Tigra lights?
Tigra.
There must be. Yeah.
Like a 21st century Tigra.
Don't tell me they prioritize.
It looks the same.
Tigra over. Oh, God,
it's got the same lights.
I must say though, the proportions, the rest of it looks really cool. So Stellantis, here's an idea for you: relaunch the Lancia Fulvia. Base it on an MX-5 like you did the 124, because we know how well that went. And then you could call it the Fulvia for Lancia. You could call it the 124 again for Fiat. You could call it the Tigra for Vauxhall and Opel. And as we discovered recently, Buick as well. Buick. So there you go. You've got 4 products there.
Bring back the Tigra. That should be one of the new T-shirts.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll cross it out and put Fulvia underneath. And we'll finish off with Super Dan, who says the Ford Shelby Cobra concept. I will add on top of that the Shelby GR1 concept, which came out at the same time, which was a modernized version of the Daytona. And it was kind of chrome with grey stripes. And I wanted one terribly as a kid, and I want one terribly now. I would give anything to have this. I think it had a V10 in it, like a Viper V10. Yeah. Really, really, really cool. So, Sam, what are some of your favourite concepts that never made production?
This was fun because obviously we don't think about a lot of these cars unless they get rolled out. BMW rolled some out recently, actually. Didn't it? I say recently, it was in the pandemic, so it's like 5 or 6 years ago. But I just did a very quick search and had a look through. One of the coolest ones that I think I've certainly forgotten about was the Ford GT90, which was a 1995 concept. Quad turbo V12, 720 horsepower, 235 mile an hour. But I guess the thunder would have been stolen at that show when it was revealed by the McLaren F1, which was of the same, give or take, that year or before. Yeah, which obviously would have gone even quicker. And that was a production car. But still,
this was a lot prettier.
A
lot prettier.
Exactly. But the Ford's still quite a cool thing.
Yeah.
You brought up, actually, when I was talking about top speeds, you're like, oh, the Aston Martin Bulldog, of course.
Yes.
200 mile an hour, cracked that quite easily, didn't it?
Well, yeah. So that was a 19 from. I was watching a video from I think it was Mike Fernie, who's just done a video on concept cars, so great timing, and he was talking about the Bulldog, and I believe it came out, it was a 1980 concept or prototype that they never got round to testing the top speed, and it would have been a 200 mile an hour car, which would have made it the fastest production car in the world at the time. It then didn't go anywhere, sold into private hands, has been fully restored, and they did a run couple of years ago, and it cracked 200 miles an hour. I think it cracked it comfortably, went well over 200 miles an hour.
That's cool.
Which makes it kind of the fastest car in the world, but they never got around to testing it. So yes, it would have been at one point the fastest car in the world.
Should have really got to rewrite history.
Absolutely, and it's a real wedge of a car, like a proper wedge.
Yeah. And it's got the weird headlights that are like in the middle of the bonnet.
Yeah,
it's really cool.
It's like the opposite of a pop-up.
Yeah,
it's like a pop-down headlight.
Yeah. There are two cars that I thought were really cool because I think they predicted the future in a sense. BMW Z1A, which was like a jacked up Z3 or something on like an SUV platform.
Oh, strange.
Yeah, weird. Convertible as well.
Yeah.
But obviously at the time in the mid-90s, probably people thought, never going to happen.
Yeah.
Who wants one of those? Then came along Evoque convertible, T-Roc convertible, and of course, BMW now are making lots of small crossover things, not drop tops, but, the world has changed. Bit ahead of its time in that regard.
Yes.
Another one like that was the Porsche 989, which was a four-door concept. Looked a lot like the 996, if I just remind myself now.
It was basically a four-door 996, was it not?
Exactly, yeah. So kept the same headlights. Again, ahead of the curve. Obviously Panamera now is a...
993, sorry.
993,
it was more
that's
993
it. Oh, but look at the tail lights are 996-ish.
996, yes. So the back end is more 996, but the front is more 993.
Yeah, weird. If you've ever wanted to look at what those two slapped together with an extra pair of doors would look like, it's your answer.
I think it was a proper functioning car, that as well. I might be wrong, but I think it was. They got to the prototype phase. I can't remember why they didn't go any further with it, but yeah, really, really cool car.
Yeah, and obviously predicted, four-door Porsches, so that was quite cool.
Yeah.
I mentioned BMW rolling out their normally, I think a lot of them were hidden concepts, weren't they? I think this might have been
a hidden concept.
Yeah, during the pandemic, I guess when something happened and people weren't allowed to do things. They rolled out an M3 compact, but it was an E36 M3 compact. So that's so cool. So yeah,
I imagine that would have been a handful.
Yeah, short wheelbase S50 with 321 horses. So, yeah, that would have been fun. But it looks great, and obviously the engine bay. I mean, I know the engine bay on a compact isn't smaller, but just having a look at the way that engine was shoehorned into that engine bay, it's quite an entertaining thing to see that size of a motor in such a tiny car.
Yeah. Very, very cool. And just when they released that as well, they also came up with the E46 M3 Touring.
Yeah.
Which they would obviously eventually get around to building with the G81. That's the right product code, isn't it? Touring. Yeah. But anyway, so my ones, I go on about this relentlessly because I'm trying to build it and I've got the gear knob, and that's about as far as I've got so far. Fiesta RS concept. If you're one of the few people that have read my PH Fleet recently, you'll know that I've come into a little bit of a sticky situation with building it because the recent MOT that I had on it revealed some rot on the sills. Fantastic looking car. The reason they canned it was like the Mark 1 RS, they couldn't. It was just financially not viable. Huge amount of money to make a Fiesta. RS-ified, and I think had they done it, the plan was 180 horsepower. It still wouldn't have been faster than a Clio 182. So, but it would have looked great. A heck of a lot cooler.
Is that the gear knob you have?
No, that's a Mark 1 RS gear knob. The one I have looks a little bit different. It's kind of it's got a metal top to it, and it's to be fair, it's not the best looking thing, but I wanted it to be historically accurate. That's that the one. Yep.
So for listeners, it's I can't remember the standard one. Part leather, part metal. Yeah.
And it took me a year to find it because I think it was an accessory that they eventually sold on the Ford C-Max in Eastern Europe.
There it is.
And so I managed to. That's my exact knob right there.
Piston heads.
On PH. Yeah, absolutely. I was very proud of that. Other ones. This is a car that I've seen as well in person, and I nearly fell over because it was amazing. The W12 Nardo concept from Volkswagen, which holds the record for the fastest average top speed over an extended period of time. I think it averaged like 240 miles an hour, going around in a circle for hours upon hours upon hours upon hours.
Yeah.
And would, I think, lead to the production of the Veyron.
It must do with that motor as well.
Yeah, seriously, seriously cool car. Speaking of Veyrons, I don't know how you pronounce this, but it's ridiculously cool. The Bentley Hunaudières, which is a mid-engined Bentley W16 prototype that released in 99. I think it was potentially going to be based on a Le Mans chassis or something that would eventually become a Bentley Le Mans car. Stunning looking thing. I believe Bentley still has it, and I'm hoping that they bring it out at some point because it is glorious. I really wished they had released that alongside the Veyron as an alternative because it's beautiful. It's
the
dark
front
green
end
with
is
chrome.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. The rear's a lot of lighting on the rear, but
there's a lot of lights. Yeah, it's very 90s at the back, but the front is stunning.
Yeah.
I think it looks beautiful. Such a shame they didn't release that. Chrysler Me 412 in a similar vein.
Me
V12.
412.
Yeah.
What was that name all about? Do you know why it had the ME in it?
ME412 was for mid-engined, four turbos, 12 cylinders, I think. Yeah.
Me 412. Yeah.
I think, it's an up and running prototype, which is in the Peterson Museum in the United States, I believe. Marvelous looking thing. Would have been comfortably the coolest thing Chrysler would have made.
I had a Mercedes-Benz V12 as well.
Yeah, it was because it was when they were buddied up.
Yeah.
But there you go. They never made it. And the last one, slightly more attainable, is I'd love to build one of these. A 156 Alfa Romeo GTA M.
Oh, yes.
Which had a 3.4 litre V6. So it was bored out to 3.4 from 3.2. And it had the bodywork from the touring car. But the interesting thing about it is, if you actually look at it, they haven't used, this is really nerdy, they've not used spacers to push the wheels out. It's actually suspension work that has moved the wheels out to each four corners. So it's heavy reworking of the car. But they built one. It's in the Alfa Romeo archive somewhere. But unfortunately, they never made it. Really cool little project idea, though. If you've got an Alfa 156 and don't mind chopping it up, it would be a dead cool thing to recreate that. So
Stunning car.
Stunning car. All cars that unfortunately we will never have. Although one day, hopefully, there will be an RS concept and it will be in my possession.
You will fix that.
I'm trying desperately hard. But on that note, that is another episode of The Gassing Station that comes to a close. Thank you ever so much for listening. If you enjoyed what you listened to, please leave us a 5-star review and maybe some nice words as well. It just helps us get The Gassing Station out to more people and just makes us feel a little bit better. Maybe it makes us feel like we're onto the right path. Sam, thanks for joining me. Anything you'd like to add before I say goodbye?
Keep an eye out for the video on YouTube. For listeners. I can't wait to see. We've got editor Ollie on this, so I'm really excited.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's not just a rambling mess, and hopefully you can fix all my moments of madness on camera and it all comes together and looks lovely. 2 cars that you wouldn't normally put together, but I know are going to make a cracking video. So one is quite literally twice the other one.
Yes, exactly.
In every way.
In every way, bar number of wheels. So on that note, keep your eyes peeled and I'll see you next Tuesday.